Hello, I'm Genesis, and I'm here today to talk about literature in teaching the foreign language skills, okay? But before to start the presentation, I would like to say that I'm suffering from a terrible sore throat, and that's why my voice sounds a little bit weird, and I'm kind of struggling with pronouncing some words, okay? But regardless that, I hope you can understand the video. Okay, so let's start. I choose three literary texts, in this case, two novels and one folk tale, okay? So the Ecuadorian text that I choose was La Emancipada by Miguel Riofrío, which is a novel. And the other novel that I choose was Americana by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, which is a Nigerian book. Okay, this is the second novel. And the last book was the Book of English Folk Tales by Sybil Marshall, which is obviously a folk tale, and it is a British book. Okay, so these are the three books that I choose. I'm gonna use La Emancipada for teaching reading and writing, the folk tale to teaching listening, and Americana to teach speaking. Okay. So let's start with the first one. So, as a pre-activity, I will show students pictures of the novel so they can apply the reading strategy predicting to guess some aspects of the story, like the time in which the story is developed, the main characters, and the plot based on the pictures. Like I'm going to show them a picture of a couple, and they have to guess, oh, maybe it's a romantic story, and that's why in the pictures they can see a couple. And then I will show them a woman who is running away, and maybe they will think, oh, maybe it's not a romantic story because the woman is running away, and those kind of things. Okay. And after that, as a wild activity, I will require students to attentively read the novel and notice which predictions were correct and which predictions were incorrect. And after that, I will explain the cultural context of the novel and the motivation and cultural dimensions that influence the characters' decisions. The first thing that I will mention is the year of the story, which is 1841. And then I will mention the father's topic, okay? Because everything starts because the father asks her daughter to marry a man that she didn't even knew at that moment. She didn't even know at that moment. Um, so I will ask them what is their opinion about that, because in some cultures, like in Ecuador, for example, um, that would be seen, as something sad. The fact that your father is forcing you to marry a man that you don't love, but then there are other countries like Qatar, for example, in which the best thing you can do to show the love that you feel for your children is by choosing them their partner, the romantic partner, because that is the way in which you make sure that your children is choosing someone that is good for them, someone that can provide for them, someone that is going to take care of them, and all of that. And I will also talk about cultural dimensions, specifically about masculinity versus femininity, okay? Because in the story, there are strong roles for every gender, women and men. Women are expected to work hard, but for their physical appearance, because they need to look good so they can be chosen by the rich men, the better men in the town, let's say. And men, they have to work hard because they need to have, firstly, a high economic status, and then they need to be prepared to be able to support their partner, okay, and their family too. And the last one, as a post activity, I will ask the students to identify the unknown words in the text to do a vocabulary building. And after that, they have to look in dictionary the meaning of those words, and then they have to create their own sentences with each word so they can, get familiarized with the vocabulary that they have. Yeah, so after that, I will use the same novel to teach writing. Okay, so as a pre-activity, I will interpret or I will dramatize some scenes of the book and ask the students to guess which part of the novel I'm acting out. Okay, because I will take advantage of the fact that they already know the story. And after that, I will require students to write the cultural aspects that they could find in the text and write them in their in a mind map, okay? This could be a good moment for them to talk about the arranged marriage, okay? And to include that in the mind map, okay? So I will require them to look for those cultural aspects and then analyze them, okay? So they can make the post activity. In this case, the post activity will be to analyze those cultural aspects that they mentioned before and then include them in a mind map and adapt them to their own culture, okay? So they already have their mind map with the cultural aspects, right? So after that, they have to write like similar cultural aspects that they can find in their own culture, okay? Or they can compare those cultural aspects with another cultures, okay? For example, in this case, arranged marriage, okay? In Ecuador now, they are not popular anymore, okay? It's not a popular practice, but there are other countries like Nigeria, for example, in which they are still popular. You know, it is normal for parents to choose their children's couple. Okay, so yeah, that they can make. I want them to make those kind of comparisons. Yeah, and after that we have the book Americana, which I will use to teach speaking, okay? So as a pre-activity, I will motivate the students to mention their ideas about the plot of the story based on the novel's cover, okay? I'm going to show them the novel's cover and I'm going to motivate them to make their suppositions about them. And after that, I will mention some important topics like love, racism, inequality, economic problems, and mental health, which are topics that are included in the book, and I will ask them to make their suppositions, you know, about the picture and the topics. For example, here we have racism, okay? And in the picture, we can see a woman with an afro hair, okay? So I want them to like to join those things, to associate those things, so they can say, okay, if the title is Americana and she's an African woman with an afro hair, maybe that's the plot of the story. That's a plot of the story, you know, an American girl who travels to United States and she suffers racism from other people because she came from another country. You know, those kind of things. I want them to make those suppositions and associations. And then I will require students to focus on like the main the main events of the story and try to analyze if they which are the mistakes that they consider that the characters made and which were the good decisions that the characters made, okay? And after that, I will start to write in the whiteboard some words and I will require them to focus on the story and then try to associate the words that I'm writing in the whiteboard with the story. You know, for example, in this case, I wrote tennis, okay? So they can say, for example, the relationship between the word and the story is that the man who sexually abused the girl was a tennis player, for example, okay? And then they will have the answer. As a post activity, I will propose a debate so students can discuss the character's actions, but answering the following questions like, what would you do in the woman's place? What would you do in the man's place? Do you think the woman took the better decisions? Or what about the man? You know, what was the worst failure of each character, etc. Okay, so they have to analyze the story before to answer the questions. And after that, I will use the Book of English Folk Tales to teach listening, okay? So as a pre-activity, I will read the title of the book and explain the meaning of the word folk tales. I will explain to them that folk tales are basically stories of each culture that are passed by generation by generation, okay? And then I will require students to think about Ecuadorian folk tales, like stories that they think that represent their country, in this case, Ecuador. And the well activity will be to read out loud some of the English folk tales that are mentioned in the book. And while they are doing that, we can practice pronunciation, and I can give students feedback while they are reading, and at the same time they can practice intonation and pitch and rhythm too. And after that, as a post activity, I will ask the students to choose their favorite folk tale from the book and act them, like to represent physically, like with mimics, some of the scenes, while the rest of the students try to guess which folk tales they are interpreting. Yeah, and that's all. Thank you so much.